Welcome very much to Conversation. A distinct pleasure for me to welcome to the program our guest, Federico Pistono. He's an intellectual of a high order, and he is originally from a country of Italy, but he writes mightily in terms of understanding the information technology and other matters. And it's a great pleasure, Federico, to welcome you to the program. Welcome to MNN and to Manhattan as well. Okay.
Thank you, Harold.
You've had a very interesting background. I think it might be best because I think you're doomed to be destined to become well known in American and world society for your achievements and so forth. But maybe you could share your own background. Born and raised, a little bit family. We talked about it, and then we'll talk about things. And I would also mention that you're a writer and so forth. But share with us your own background. Born and raised, a little bit educated, and then we'll talk about your life.
Okay, so I was born in Italy, in the northwest, in a region called Piemonte, which is in the mountains and the Alps between Switzerland and France.
Right.
In a city called Cossato.
Beautiful part of the world.
Yeah, it's very beautiful.
Yeah.
So Cossato is not very well known because it's a very small town, only 15,000 people. But perhaps its greatest achievement, if you call it that, it was the hometown of Amedeo Avogadro.
Oh, really?
Basically, the godfather of chemistry.
Oh, really? Okay, very good. Okay.
So, so I was born and raised there to a lower middle class family. You know, we didn't have a lot of money, actually.
But it was it was a warm and welcoming environment.
Oh,
the family setting was warm and friendly.
I have no complaints about my family on that regard.
Mother was a librarian, no?
Yes. My mother was the librarian of the city.
Yeah.
And I say that with kind of a smirk because when she got pregnant, they tried to find someone else to fill in the position. Nobody could do the job. So she was officially the only librarian of the city because they had to close the library when she was pregnant.
Oh, I see. Right. Well, that's lovely. That's beautiful. And then your dad, and you have siblings? I mean,
I have an older brother and a younger sister.
And is he also inclined? You went to public schools and that sort of thing?
I went to public schools, and although public schools in Italy are fairly good on average in relation to the standard of education. Yeah. I had a problem with education in general.
I did too. I did all my life, I think. Yeah, but go ahead. What was the problem?
Well, I found it very restrictive intellectually. I felt caged in a system that expected you to learn a certain number of things about a certain specific topics, following a curricula, and you were not encouraged nor allowed to think critically or to deviate from the standard procedure.
Wonderfully said.
And so
I
had an issue with that.
You were curious. You were intellectually curious on a wide tableau. You were interested in a great number of things.
Yes.
And creative thinking, critical thinking. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yes, and most of all, I was interested in why. Like when they said, the sky is blue, and I say, why is the sky blue? Oh well, what color do you expect? Red? And I say, maybe.
Right.
And from a simple question like that, you can explain the electromagnetic spectrum, how the molecules of the air attract certain wavelengths of light, and you can talk about physics, about chemistry, about all sorts of, and from there you can branch out. So from the simplest of questions, but
that's
as soon as you take somebody's curiosity and squash it, smash it down, you're basically killing the inner creativity of a child.
Yeah, that's really my favorite people. I think I'm not sure. It's a little bit overdrawn, but I think my favorite people in the world are 5-year-olds. 5-year-olds are just inherently curious about everything, and they're open. They have practically no artifice. I think we drum that out of them. For what reason that we do that? Or I'm just wondering. It is the curiosity of an innocent child in a certain sense that is to be encouraged, it seems to me.
Picasso said everyone's an artist, everyone's born an artist. The challenge is to remain an artist when we grow up.
Right.
I think the same goes with curiosity. Science.
We were talking about education at university level and so forth. I said I think there ought to be in the university a department of everything, to where everything is included or up on the table, rather than the highly specialized reductionist approach to understanding that seems to be characteristic of educational perhaps for some economic reason or something.
Well,
but I
to
don't
be
know. What
fair,
do you think?
specialization had a very important role, and there is a reason why specialization has been promoted in such a way, because
Yeah.
it really helps move science forward and,
Well,
and
that
technology.
is true, but
But at the same time,
Yeah.
we also need to keep a wider range of thinking, typically not just being interested in many things, but understanding the connection between them.
pattern recognizing.
Yes, and
Yeah,
systems.
yeah. And systems
So
thinking.
I think
And
system
critical
thinking,
thinking comes
Yeah.
in. Yeah, yeah.
critical so overcoming biases
Yeah.
is not taught anywhere in school, as far as I know.
Uh-huh.
System thinking is taught in some progressive schools and certain universities,
Yeah.
but maybe in ecology, environmental science. But system thinking should be, in my opinion, taught at different stages, at different levels
Yeah.
in every school,
Yeah.
even elementary school.
And you had that sort of built into you in a certain sense. That was your attitude toward things. And then you went to school, and then you've also become very interested in information technology and things of that sort. And you've also been involved with the Singularity University and so forth. So maybe we could share some of that. You've been able to find scholarships that have taken you to other parts of the world and so forth. Maybe we could share a little bit more outside of the family, the immediate family
Yeah.
setting.
So, although
Yeah.
my family setting was very warm and welcoming,
Yeah.
I had nothing to complain.
Very important.
Very important.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It gives
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
the stability, the emotional stability
Yeah.
that allows you to grow and flourish, I think,
Yeah, right.
as a person.
And encouragement.
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
But, you know, I was in a small town, and I had interests that went beyond what was typically accepted and conceived in these kinds of environments. Not just my family, but my school in general, my friends, everyone around me. And so I escaped into computers, because there, when I discovered computers, and especially when I discovered the Linux operating system and the GNU philosophy of free software and knowledge sharing, kind of like the Enlightenment.
Open source.
Open source.
Yeah.
That really opened my eyes to that I could solve humongous problems if I had the time commitment and the passion and the wit to program those solutions into an algorithm.
Maybe we begin. What year were you born, if I may?
The end of 1985.
85, and so you became aware of the computer and so forth and all of this at the age of what, 10 or?
It was about 12.
About 12,
Yeah.
right? And you
So I had a Commodore 64 and an Amiga even before that, but I wasn't programming it. I was just using it. I started programming when I was maybe 12, 13.
Really?
Yeah.
Writing code, you know?
Yeah.
You know how to write code?
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations. I mean, it seems to be very complex and everything like that. But okay.
I think it should be taught in schools from year 4 or 5, as much as we teach language. But anyway, I was.
It is a language, is it?
It is a language.
Yeah.
It's called
Fortran or something.
programming languages.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But
right, yeah.
the difference between natural language and programming languages is that programming languages are Turing complete. So they are.
They are
essentially
what?
They're Turing complete. So Alan Turing was.
Oh,
the
Turing, yeah, Turing
Right.
machine, yeah.
So they are not ambiguous. They are precise.
Precise to the
logically
point of each dot has to be right.
They are logically consistent, and our language is not logically consistent. And
Right.
That may be one of the reasons we have both interesting art and a lot of problems in communicating with others. So it's kind of a double-edged sword.
Yeah, okay, right now,
But,
yeah. They have a Turing test or something they try to give to people to understand. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we're taking too many tangents.
Sorry, yeah. Well, that's the problem. Everything's interesting, you know, yeah.
But yeah, so I.
So that was a gateway for you.
Yeah, it was a gateway to kind of channel my curiosity into a medium that I could use to solve humongous problems without a lot of money that I didn't have, or a lot of resources that I didn't have, because I was stuck in a small town. But then I got my opportunity. I was completely fed up with the education system. When I was 16, I was about to drop out, or seriously, I was about to.
Because it didn't have encouragement, critical thinking, all the important values were not inherent to the process.
Exactly.
Writ large, and a problem on the world scale, I would say. Right?
So, and then I saw that there was this opportunity for a place called the United World College, and there is 10 of them in 10 countries. Sorry, in 10 different countries, 2 for each continent. and it's a place that was built started in, I think, 1972. The first one probably was in Canada, and the idea was to make education a force to unite people, cultures and different nations for peace and a sustainable future.
Good idea.
So obviously, it's a nice thought,
idealistic sounding, but
how do you execute? And the way they thought about executing it was by starting colleges that were highly selective in terms of the people, the attitudes, and the kinds of people that they selected, but the ability for them to pay for it was not part of the selection process.
Wonderful. You're right in public access here. All this is done here, and you don't ever have. You can produce programming, put it out in high definition and all that, and if you don't want to, you don't have to ever think about money.
Yeah.
Do you think that's subversive?
In a way.
In a way, a good subversion. Yeah.
So
it's a very important resource you should be aware of. Right?
Yes,
this communication.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
And so I applied. Almost nobody believed that I could do it because I wasn't the one with the highest grades in my school. Even so, out of thousands of people who applied in the whole country, only 10 or 15 got a scholarship.
Out of thousands?
Out of several
And
thousands.
is that from a written thing you did? Or you applied in a written form?
No. Nothing like that.
Okay.
You went. You went
to a place.
You went to a place.
You interacted with people. Yeah.
You interacted with people. You had discussions. You commented on articles, or you were playing social games such as the World Game by Bucky Fuller.
Thank you.
Variations of that.
Yeah.
So you were playing the Heads of State.
You were aware of Fuller early.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and admirer of him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He's endlessly. I'm airing a program. We're talking now. Thanksgiving's coming. I'm airing a program I did with him in 1974 on Thanksgiving Day, because it's Thanksgiving for those systems thinker who are thinking that way. But it's a sidebar. But go ahead. Yeah.
So I won the scholarship, and I went there, and I shared for 2 years the same place with 200 kids like me at age 16.
And where was it physically or geographically?
This was in Duino, which is between Slovenia and Italy.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Just next to Trieste.
Yeah, okay, Trieste, yeah.
And so we had 85 countries represented with 200 students. So pretty much two persons group for each
And
country.
they'd all gone through this process of being selected?
In their own country.
So what a great learning experience among your fellow students and everything.
Oh yeah, you had Palestinians and Israelis sharing
And you're
the
what
same
age
room.
then? What age when you went there?
This was 16.
16?
Yeah,
Wonderful.
16 for 2
wonderful.
years.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So, and so that really opened my mind, because we had no grades. There were no tests.
Thank you. Thank you.
We didn't have to follow courses.
Yeah, right.
And even so, the students who came out of that and then went to university, went to Harvard, Princeton, Stanford, and they're the best students in their fields.
Right. Yeah,
so
I can see that.
It kind of proves
There's
that
a term, autodidact. Do you know that term? Self-taught.
Yes.
I think that's really important. It's like a hound dog on a trail of a fox.
Yeah.
Because you're really interested rather than filling some outer-directed thing that thinks you have to do something that you don't want to do yourself. Right.
And I think that's the difference between education and learning.
Okay.
So education, as I see it, it's something that's imposed on you, that you have to receive and you're compelled to, typically even by law.
Yeah, it's conditioning.
Yeah.
Conditioned response,
Of course, the way it began was, we don't want to go in that tangent, but it was a way for the British Empire to keep track of all their colonies and make sure that they were following orders.
Right.
But that's how it was.
Yeah, it's an instrument of control.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and learning, on the other hand, is an active process that you yourself do when you're engaged in finding something
dialogue.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was interested in learning from the very beginning, and I didn't have much interest in education.
Right. Exactly.
There was a great Mark Twain, I think, quote that says, "I never let my education interfere with my learning."
Yes, right. It's a good line. A lot of good lines from Twain. Yeah.
Anyway, and then I went back to traditional university because there were no other. It was in Verona, at the University of Verona, mathematical.
You went into mathematics?
It was in the mathematical and physical sciences.
Yeah.
And it was the Department of Computer Science.
Oh, really? Okay, so
yeah.
you...
But I did study mathematics.
You had
physics
picked up on the
and
computer thing before you went to
Yeah.
the thing in Trieste. Yeah. Okay.
Although I did study mathematics,
Yeah.
physics, and all of that was.
You were studying that, and you can, and it's such a tremendous source of information. The internet is such a miracle to me. It's
yeah.
like you got everything available. You know, it's amazing. Yeah. When I was coming up, I had a family that was, we had the Encyclopedia Britannica and the Harvard Classic.
Yeah.
You could read.
Yeah.
You know, everything, but it was very limited compared to what's available
Yeah,
to
and now
young
everything
minds coming
changed.
up now. Yeah.
Precisely. So as I was going through this process, which was very interesting and engaging in some respect,
Yeah.
because I realized that some of the things that I studied there, I would not have studied by myself because they were too difficult at the beginning to approach.
Yeah.
So you probably have given up if you are not compelled.
Yeah.
But for most of the things,
Yeah.
I didn't really learn anything that I couldn't have learned by myself or that I did not already learn.
Okay, that's interesting.
So,
yeah. Yeah.
I saw that there was a value in going there and keep doing something that was very hard,
Yeah.
even if you didn't feel like,
Yeah.
and also to meet interesting people.
Right.
But for the most part,
Yeah.
it was dreadful. Most of the people that I knew.
You're talking
were-
Verona now?
I'm
No.
talking about university in general.
In general,
Verona was
okay.
actually one of the best universities in
Okay.
Italy, if not the best for computer science. That's the reason I decided to go there. You know, the polls gave best grades for that
Yeah.
in Verona.
Oh.
That's why I went there in the first place.
Uh-huh.
But university in general, you're concerned about your curriculum. You're concerned about grades. You're
Yeah.
concerned about the test.
Yeah, it's all outer-directed
so the-
stuff, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you end up looking at the historical record of the various tests and seeing what kind of exercises they put, what kind of things you're expected to do. You start to do calculations on, if I do the first and the second exercise right, that's 2 points, and the third I can do half right.
Right.
Like you can, as soon as you get into that kind of discourse,
Yeah.
learning has ended,
Yes.
and you are into
I
education.
couldn't agree with you more. Yet that's what goes in the name of
Right.
education
Right.
Across the board.
So
yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, it
So
is.
when I got my degree in computer science, I left university for good,
Uh-huh.
and I went on autodidactism.
Thank you. It's a noble term. Yeah. Right. Okay.
So I, since the internet gave this possibility,
Uh-huh.
I began to take courses from Stanford, from Harvard, from Princeton.
You took courses that are offered in that way? I know
Yeah.
MIT's got all their faculty.
So MIT
notes up
started
there.
with OpenCourseWare
OpenCourse,
many
yeah.
years ago,
Yeah.
and then other universities followed.
Yeah, you can study any. Yeah, go
Right.
ahead.
And so I took courses on machine learning and artificial intelligence, on human behavioral biology, on system thinking, on ecology, on quantum mechanics, on all sorts of interesting things. And so I saw this huge opportunity. And I skipped the part where I started 5 nonprofits and I started social movements and
You did those things on the side, like you
Yeah,
were
on the
doing that
side.
at the same time, but you were self-educating, yeah?
Yes.
And where were you residing? Did you reside in various places of the world, or
So-
how did that work?
So up until 3 years ago, I was pretty much stable in Verona.
In
And-
Verona, okay.
Well, at that time, I mean, I was working full time.
Yeah.
I didn't mention this.
You had a job?
I had a job. I was working full time. Yeah.
What
yeah.
were you doing, if I may?
So I started as an IT manager in a.
Oh, you got
in a
into
media-
IT, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I was a manager of IT. I was managing a department with 70 people.
Oh, wow, that's a lot.
Oh yeah. That was my first job.
You were a young relative.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was 22. That was
a lot
my
of
first
young
job.
people in there. Yeah, right, okay. Yeah.
And then I became. I went to a media company, video production, and I was doing many things. I was doing web development, system administration, programming, but I was also writing scripts and directing movies.
For feature film thinking or
For,
documentary?
So some of them were short, some
Yeah.
of them were documentaries, some of
Okay.
them were videos for companies. So
And those
some of
are-
those for events.
Those are what you would call work that were gainfully employing you,
Oh,
and
yeah,
that
yeah.
in addition
It
to
was-
the autodidact teaching of yourself on the quantum mechanics and so forth.
and
yeah.
the activism, which took
Activism, political activism? or
mostly social activism, environmental
Yeah,
and social justice and human rights.
You've been busy. You keep busy, right? How many hours do you sleep a day? Or do you-
It's an interesting question. When I was 23,
Yeah.
I did an experiment called polyphasic sleep.
Okay, I don't
It's
know.
something that was invented well, maybe many years ago, but it was made as a science by Claudio Stampi, who was a researcher at the University of Bologna, and then went to, I think, Boston, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And his research has been used by NASA and many other organizations.
On sleep, right?
On sleep. So supposedly every one of us has a cycle that is typically a 3-hour cycle, plus or minus. So it's a
interesting.
Actually, it's 90 minutes plus or minus a few minutes. And so what you can do is either you sleep cycles of 90 minutes and you stop in between, so you can be awake more, or you can even do the Uberman schedule, or the power nap. So it's 24 plus or minus 6 minutes, and you sleep every 4 hours. So you end up maybe sleeping 2.5 or 3 hours per day. So
only out of the 24?
Yes, because you have up to 21 hours of usable time, but you're not feeling
drowsy.
Yeah,
you're
feeling great.
Yeah,
you're alert, you're feeling great.
Yeah.
And I did that experiment for 9 months.
Did you really? Yeah. How'd it work out?
Oh, it worked perfectly.
Yeah.
The only reason
I think Edison was like that. I think Foley was like that. Foley used to do cat naps, you know.
Cat naps.
Or a couple hours or something. And
but now I sleep a regular amount because the rest of the world is monophasic, so you kind of have to adjust.
But you did experiment with that.
Oh, yeah, for 9 months.
And I think Edison was like that too, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe.
I may be wrong. I'm not sure.
I think I've heard something, but I can't confirm.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I didn't. So anyway, so you got so much, you can only pack so much in and everything like that. And then you did that work, and you were doing the autodidactic learning just continues endlessly. I mean, there's so much you can learn.
Yeah.
Physics and that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
And you're also getting into film. Did you get? You were actually screenwriting and thinking production of filmic fare and that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, and I was also
multimedia is in the future. I mean, heavily in the future.
I was also directing
film.
So I did short films. I did short documentaries. I did events, like for the film festival, short film festival in Venice, 5 years ago, I think.
You enjoy that?
Oh yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah. You work with Final Cut, or what do you use?
I was also working as an editor. Actually, I wasn't working as an editor. I was editing my own stuff when I really wanted full control over my creative process. You like to have control over the creative process rather than answering to a bureaucracy. Is that true? Admit it. I would say that's a fair assessment.
Yeah, I would say that would be a fair assumption. Anyway, you also got then interested in terms of your ongoing life and everything like that with the Singularity University and so forth. Was there something intervening between the time you were in Verona and Singularity? Or maybe you should get to that. And we've got you already pegged to having touring and that kind of thing, maybe Norbert Wiener and also Ray Kurzweil. So maybe we could bring some of those things in if we can.
So first of all, why was I doing all of this?
Yeah, right. Well,
why? Because I wanted to have a positive impact in the world.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to inspire, encourage, and enable millions of people to do something nice, right? Something they liked, something
do you think
that was
of yourself as an idealist? They use terms used sometimes derisively. You're not being practical. You're not being realistic. You know?
I would say no, because it usually has a negative connotation.
Yeah, no.
I would say that I'm very pragmatic in the sense that I do things that are actionable, and that's why starting organizations and companies and nonprofits and movements really gives you a sense of perspective on what you can do and what. Just up in the air.
A little bit entrepreneurial, maybe? A respect for entrepreneurial spirit?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Taking risks and all of that.
Yeah.
So, huge respect for people like Elon Musk, who are actually moving humanity forward, not just a company or an organization.
Well, there's a lot of entrepreneurs you could have respect for. Edison, Fuller
I have less respect for Edison, but that's for different reasons.
Why is that? But you like Tesla?
No, let's not. Yeah, I like Tesla.
Let's
not get into the Edison. Actually, if you can see this T-shirt, it says Tesla is greater than Edison.
Oh, I see. I hadn't noticed it. You put a black shirt over it. He died at a building right around the corner from where I live.
We will take the rest of the conversation just to talk about that.
You know, that's where he passed on. It's a hotel right on 34th and 8th Avenue. Anyway, so that's AC/DC.
So the reason I wanted to do, I was doing all of this to start in social movements, non-profits, human rights, environmental justice. The reason why I was doing all of this was to have a positive impact in the world.
Okay.
And then I found out about Singularity University.
Okay, talk about it to the audience. They may not know. Yeah.
Singularity was started 5 years ago by Ray Kurzweil and Peter Diamandis, both incredible thinkers.
It was started
and
5
change
years
makers.
ago? Was it that long ago?
5
It
years
seems to
ago.
me time goes
We
fast.
just did the
when you get
5-year anniversary and alumni reunion this summer in Mountain View. So they thought, to cut a long story short, technology is advancing exponentially.
Well, yes. I don't know if all technology is, but certainly information and robotics are.
Information technology in general, and most that goes with it, is advancing at an exponential rate. Anything between 8-month and 24-month period for doubling.
There goes Moore's Law. Huh?
Actually, much
beyond
broader, beyond Moore's Law. Moore's Law, the doubling of information technology began dozens of years before Gordon Moore was even born. Let alone when he came up with.
It goes back to Norbert Wiener.
It's the steam engine. Before that.
Well, steam engine. Are you talking about information technology or technology in general?
Technology in general.
Is technology in general moving exponentially, or is information technology ahead of the technology of making cornflakes or something? You know,
technology in general. Is moving at a somewhat exponential rate, maybe semi-exponential. Some technologies, some are maybe somewhat linear, but maybe faster than linear. But most of technology is moving on a geometric progression. And information technology in specific, and everything that's connected with it, is advancing faster than ever before.
I wonder, there used to be Hans Moore back down at Carnegie Mellon with robotics, right? And the robotics would be a little thing walking around, give you a cup of coffee. Now the robotics are moving exponentially in link with the information technology, and things are being produced by robots.
They are coexisting, they're
exponential. Robotics is developing as rapidly as information technology?
Not as rapidly, but very rapidly, nonetheless.
They're sort of in sync now in terms of the productive process.
Maybe not exactly in sync. Robotics, whenever you have to do with hardware, it becomes tricky.
Yeah, it does.
But anyway, the point is, all this technology is advancing very rapidly. Can we use the products and the fruits of this technology?
Not unless you got people who are able to clear the market, for one thing, is in terms of an economic problem.
Right, but can we use these exponentially growing technologies to improve the lives of billions of people in less than a decade?
Okay, that's back to Fuller's World Game, don't you think, among other templates that we could repair to?
They made it an institution, and they started a place called Singularity University.
Now you're talking about Kurzweil and Diamandis.
Yes.
And those two were involved? Diamandis was involved from the beginning?
They started it.
Fuller is pretty well known, certainly known to me. I mean, he's a great systems thinker, Marshall McLuhan had information. Diamandis, maybe it would be worth introducing him to the audience.
So Peter Diamandis, he started many companies. One of them was the X Prize, which is launching initiatives, maybe with prizes of $10 million to solve global grand challenges, challenges that humanity has never been able to solve in, dozens of years. And suddenly, you put up a price of $10 million, and then you say, whoever can solve this. For example, they came up with a vehicle that can be mass-produced, and commercially viable, that does 73 kilometers per liter, which is what?
Of gasoline?
Equivalent. So it doesn't have to be gasoline. It could be ethanol. It could be electric, but equivalent. Gasoline equivalent.
They got something with like methane now. Methanol.
So anyway, go ahead. Peter Diamandis is someone who has impacted the world.
He's an entrepreneur.
He's an entrepreneur.
He's also a systems thinker. And he wrote a best-selling book, didn't he? Called Abundance. Is that worth mentioning? That's a major book that's out. Absolutely. And his claim is, as was Fuller's main claim coming out of World Game, chart he copyrighted in 1953. He took as a measurement in a systems way the percentage of the world population that can reasonably, according to definition of terms, be a have. Cervantes once said there are only two classes in the world, haves and have-nots. It should be seriously up on the table. What does it mean to be a have? That's not really considered. It's just considered ipso facto absurd to think that somebody can be a have because there's so much. Yeah. Anyway, and he took the percentage, they projected our world game, 1952, projected the percentage of the world population at the level of capability, latent, not the actual political reality, the percentage of the world population that could be seen to be a have through time. You understand? And he went and he had this thing coming into the 20th century. It was 10% by the First World War with all the tech, and the 20% by the second. He said we had a 20-year period of rendezvous with when we crossed the 50% mark at about the year 1970. That would be a marker that we may be, in an evolutionary sense, transcending material scarcity as an ontologic or epistemological.
So ephemeralization is a
an
term.
Abundance.
Right.
What do you call it?
I think Bucky Fuller used the word
ephemeralization.
Ephemeralization.
No, that's doing more with less through good design.
Right, but
the thing is that you've got humanity has always been in a condition of scarcity. Is the reason for which we set up all our institutions. There's not nearly enough. We may be transcending the point as we get to the point where the weapon systems can wipe out the species. We're getting to the point where we can begin to have institutions and design questions at the level of the understanding there is enough, as opposed to there has been scarcity in which all of our historical institutions had evolved. Can you understand or not?
Yeah, absolutely understand.
Okay.
But so there are two aspects here. One is that we are overcoming material scarcity for some things.
Yeah, but that.
wait,
Okay. He meant collectively.
Wait.
Okay.
Collectively.
Yeah, not just for some things. We got enough radishes.
We are
or
not.
something.
We are not. We are not sustainable. So we are not nearly close. But before I get there, I wanted to finish.
Please. Okay, go ahead.
But I'd love to get back to that point.
Yeah, it's a major thing.
I mean, absolutely. But the reason that I went to Singularity was how do I practically have a positive impact in the world and improve the lives or facilitate the improvement of the lives of hundreds of millions, if not billions of people in 10 years or less. And so what I came up with was a project that had to do with learning.
Okay.
Right.
Education.
So learning.
Learning as opposed to education. Okay.
Yes. So online learning. And so I started I have a startup here in New York called Esplori. Esplori, E-S-P-L-O-R-I. It's Esperanto for to seek out knowledge. And so since I went through both the traditional system of education and the radical new way of thinking about learning, and then back to university and back to autodidactism, and I've seen all the evolution of this firsthand, with the insight that I received from Singularity University, from the meetings that I had and the interaction that I had with all the wonderful people that went there with me, and with I've been speaking about a lot of subjects.
We got a book we want to talk about.
I went around the world with I went around the world to speak at various conferences and events and universities.
You're invited speaker many places in the world.
I spoke to maybe 100 conferences in the last 3 years.
Good. Okay, good. Yeah.
So with all these interactions, in fact, yesterday I spoke at the Global Education Conference.
What is that? I don't know where.
So this year was an online event. And there were thousands of educators and public administrators and students and teachers. It's one of the largest educational conferences in the world. And
send me a link or something. Let me get it. Go ahead.
So given all the experience that I had in interactions that I had with people that I spoke to in different countries, and I want to stress that out. Right? I wasn't a rich kid in a rich country thinking that I could solve all the world's problem. I went and spoke and lived with people in Qatar, with people in Taiwan, with people in South America, in Brazil, in all over Europe, in the United States, in North America. I went all over the world to actually be with these people.
At conferences you would go to?
No, but not just conferences.
Not
the conferences
you mean you would live a number of days or weeks?
Yeah, I would live for a few weeks there, and I would actually talk to people.
Was that
who
part of
were
the
living
and Singularity University is the thing set at Palo Alto. It's you know, Kurzweil and De Montes and others, and it's a university for IT or for information technology.
No, absolutely not.
No. Explain it, because it's an important a source of education. You're into
Singularity
education,
University is an institution that helps facilitate young entrepreneurs, or not necessarily young, entrepreneurs, thinkers, change makers.
Systems thinkers?
Any
a
kind
place
of
for systems thinking? Critical thinking?
You could say that, but not restricted to that. So you have scientists, you have educators, you have entrepreneurs, you have policymakers, anybody who wants to have a large positive impact in the world, and it has in a real, practical, measurable way.
Okay, right. Right.
Singularity University is the perfect place.
And it has a physical location somewhere?
Yes.
Where?
It's inside the NASA Ames Research Park.
Okay.
Space exploration, NASA.
Okay. And it's been about 5 years in establishment.
5 years.
Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah.
With Kurzweil.
Kurzweil and Diamandis are two of the founders.
Yeah.
There is a faculty with maybe 50 or 60 people.
How large is is it a physical facility? Is it dormitories, this kind of thing?
Yes.
How many people are there?
Every year there is a summer program lasting 10 weeks, and there are 80 people in this summer program. It's a graduate study program.
Yeah.
And then there are, I think, 5 executive programs for top managers and CEOs and policy makers.
A lot of IT people, are there?
Not so many. No. You're thinking IT. It's not IT.
Okay,
IT is a small fraction.
Okay.
If you want
I'm glad to hear that.
If you want to have a large positive impact in the world, you can't restrict yourself to one specific vertical.
Yeah.
You have to take everything into account.
That's true.
It has to do with people, it has to do with policy, it has to do with ethics, it has to do with learning, and it has to do with poverty, with access to water, to medical research, has to do with everything.
Yeah, so I understand that. I understand that.
The goal is to solve one or more of the global grand challenges, and the global grand challenges are food, water, environment, education, poverty, security, and two more that I don't remember right now. But this is the kind of...
Yeah, and it could be getting down to where do we stand in environment, and where do we stand in terms of alteration of the human condition. When you get to a position where the extended consciousness is such that the weapon systems are able to stop at conscious evolution along the hominoid line, as they have been since about 1970, that's an existential new reality. The thing we throw trippingly off the tongue, which ought inform the political process. The biggest design question is, how are we going to operate Spaceship Earth? What are the rules? What are the context? What is the reality that we can codify or get a hold on by which we're going to set up design functions for the operation of Spaceship Earth? And we don't have it up on the table. We're all reifying outdated institutions inherited out of history. And on the other side, you said it just so simply, we have transcended, perhaps at the level of capability, material scarcity.
So
now that
in some respect, we have, but at the expense of, well, right now, so it all comes down to resource utilization.
Right.
Okay. So if you look at what the Earth, the Ecological Footprint Network has done, which is a network of independent researchers that they are not paid for by a specific government or corporation, so they're fairly well credible. They've calculated something called the global footprint. In terms of global hectares. So global hectare. Hectare. So
hectare, like an acre?
Yes.
Like hectare.
So in there you have it's just one number that tries to bundle many things together in terms of water availability, the soil, how fertile it is, if the air is clean enough, the metals. So everything that is required for the survival and the thriving of the human race on the planet, you take that, and that is a global hectare. Okay.
Well,
so we have about the last time I checked, about 12 billion global hectare.
I don't know what
available.
that means. I don't know what that means.
It's just a number.
Yeah, I know.
They've made many calculations. We have about 12 billion of them in the planet, meaning that every year, with the replenishing of the Earth is 12 billion global hectares. That means that if we were to use less than that, we would be sustainable, because the planet every year, every cycle of the seasons replenishes those resources.
Okay.
Some of them are less replenishable, some are less, but this is an average aggregate number.
Okay.
So
that's what was done in the World Game. That was done in the World Game.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if we were to use about 1.2, 1.3 global hectare per capita, since there is about 7 billion of us, 7 billion 100 million.
Heading for 9,
heading for 9. So if we should be we should be aiming at 1 global hectare per capita in consumption, knowing that we will be about 9 to 10 billion people in 2050.
How are those things happening? How is ephemeralization affecting those ratios?
We should be aiming for 1. This is a discussion that I think we should be having at the United Nations and at the global councils that we're having.
The
thing is, in the United States, the average person uses about 8.
As opposed to what they ought?
As opposed to 1. And somebody in Azerbaijan, they're using 0.7.
Yeah, okay.
Of course, nobody wants to live like an Azerbaijani. But is there, for example, in Europe, the standard of living is the same as an American, or even higher if you look at Norway, Sweden, Denmark. They're using about 4.5, in some countries even less. So they're using about half of what an American uses, but they're having the same standard living.
They're at 4.
It's very inefficient.
Well, the inefficiencies all over. They're at 4, what should be 1? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, we should be aiming for 1 global hectare of usage per capita, but we're using 7 or 8 in the United States. We are pushing to using 9
4 even in the good ones there. And so where does, in terms of trends and so forth, ephemeralization of doing more with less? Nanotechnology is just over the horizon. You'll have building materials 1,000 times the strength of steel and weigh nothing. There's all kinds of new things that are possible and so forth.
There is all sorts
what
of
are those
things
trends, and how accurate are those trends of the global hectare and so forth? And what are the principles or the context or the source of information by which they come up with those figures? And so you're saying in some things we got a surplus, or we're transcending scarcity, but in other things, overall, how do you add it all up as a system? Overall, how are we doing? So are there more percentage of the world population can be called realistically, ontologically, halves through time as a principle? Could it be established axiomatically?
So the number,
and we do reach the 50%.
So if we look at the numbers, in absolute numbers, it is true that there are more people today starving than ever before.
In numbers.
But
percentage-wise, at level of capability, not the reality. The capability.
In terms of percentage, we have less people in poverty than ever before in human history. We have less people starving. We have less people with less access to their physical and psychological needs ever in human history. There's less violence than ever in human history, percentage-wise. So we're doing pretty well in that regard, but we are not even close at being sustainable. And for all the nanotechnology that could come about, and if we don't change the paradigm of infinite growth in the first place, we'll just be using. So I'll give you an example.
Go ahead.
If we can do 100 times more with the same resources because we have nanotechnology, well, with the trend that we are consuming and we're going through with this consumerist culture, we're just going to use 150 times.
Well, that's back again.
Because so it doesn't matter what kind of technology arrives if the mindset doesn't change.
Well, the mindset would change if you have a thing. Right now, the major thing that motivates all human beings on this planet, I would suggest, is and only can be concerned with how do I get money. That's the only thing that motivates the vast majority of human behavior on the planet now. I don't know, there might be something else like love or concern or something, but by and large, the thing that constrains the human society is I have to survive, I have to
That's
get
a very,
money.
very recent thing.
So we need a new economic theory. We need a new economic meaning.
Look at this.
Capital is formed, demand is distributed, buying power is not in the hands. If you get to a point,
look at it from
Cervantes.
wait.
What does it mean to be a have? You can have one hamburger. You don't need 6 hamburgers. You've got enough. The consciousness can change to being not, eating everything in sight because you're so friggin' insecure because you don't have basic security about it. It could be security would be something that would mean a sustainable lifestyles where you don't indulge in. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, but I think we should try and look at it from a different perspective.
Okay.
So
is this working?
yes, I think it's working. So if you look at, let's say, the concern that people have with money.
Right. Is there anything else that does not, that trumps everything in most people's mind?
Let me elaborate for a second.
Okay.
What most people are really saying is, I want access to the things that I need.
Right.
I want security. I want to provide for my family. I want entertainment. I want to have fun. I want to all sorts of things.
Yeah, and they don't have, yeah, go ahead.
Money is an enabler of these things that you are asking, but not a necessary requirement if the things can be provided for without the exchange of money or with less exchange of money. So one of the trends that I have identified is since this ephemeralization is
it's a mouthful.
happening.
Doing more with less through good design.
Right. Yeah. If that's happening, what are the obstacles that prevent us from using the fruits of automation? And that's why that was the subject of my book, Robots Will Steal Your Job, but that's okay. So maybe you can show this for...
Show this. Yeah, well, I'll hold it. Yeah, he's got the book. This is really good because we're doing this. It's
so it's a bit worn out. I had to ask it from a friend because
this is Robots Will Steal Your Job, but that's okay. How to Survive the Economic Collapse and Be Happy. That's the title of this book. I think that's really interesting. I think robots are taking over the productive process. Yeah.
So, by the way...
So this is a book of his, a book that's available,
So you can also get it for free on the website.
You can also get it for free at the website, which is, we'll give them the website.
It's robotswillstealyourjob.com. Sorry if the cover is a bit worn out, but I just came back from Norway from a conference and I finished my last book, so I had to ask this from a friend.
Okay, right. Okay,
But so if
robots are stealing jobs,
right. But if that's happening, and at the same, so we're increasing productivity, we're doing more with less. What's preventing us from distributing the fruits of automation to the larger population with less exchange of money or without even the exchange of money?
Well, how about having an alternate way of distributing demand other than labor or a job by which the entrepreneurs set up their thing and our political leadership, all they can think about is getting a job.
Well, that's because of the system that came into existence and that
but it's all of human history. We're transcending all of human history. When we get to the point where we can destroy
so the question is how?
Right. Well, you need to educate, for one thing, not only educate, and have up on the table the concept. I would suggest the major concept is there is enough. So if that gets up there, then you can have a different set of
But that's not enough. In practical terms, it's good for talking about it, but if you want to make it practical, that's not enough.
Well, then that would be no, but to have that, rather than that idea, the idea that is there, we've got 200,000 years of our species on this planet. Throughout all that time, all of the institutional structures were set up within a context that's been qualitatively transformed by the extension of our consciousness into the universe and making the world different in a different... We might be thinking about, like, say, maybe we're coming to the end of the Homo sapien era. We may be thinking about transcending the Homo sapien context evolutionarily rather than just materially. The institutions are all outdated, like in an evolutionary sense, punctuated equilibrium. We may be coming to a fulfilling of a process.
Okay. That might or might not be, even in the most optimistic predictions or forecasts, that won't be happening for another 25 to 30 years.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. I think it'd be happening about now. It happened.
No, but to transcend
Do you have it?
to transcend Homo sapiens.
It would be happening.
Yes, but I was trying to make a point about how do we get there. But I would love to. I mean.
Yeah, go ahead. Make a point. Yeah, go ahead.
So, the question was, how do we get there, right? How do we distribute? So it might be. I don't know what you mean by transcending the human condition, if in practical terms.
Well, how are you going to form capital? First of all, why is all the capital allowed to be extended in a certain small group of people? We're going to have to expand some ownership. We're form capital in a way where ownership of a robot is owned by everybody as a way of distributing demand, buying power to them, rather than having them do nothing but maybe get a job on the estate.
So
where the assets are all. So you need an economic theory that has to be up on the table.
So that would require massive changes in legislation worldwide.
Well, it would require at the level of thinking and the level of education, things being up on the table. Now,
sure, but if you want to make it a practical thing, you have to think about the legislation that is implied. You have to think about,
of course,
So I've been thinking about this for many years.
Good,
I have some suggestions.
Good suggestions. We only got about 10 minutes left.
Right, so that's why I wanted to get to that point.
Okay,
otherwise, we're just posing questions and we're not giving the answers to the
well,
viewers.
not really, but I think. Okay, go ahead.
So, by the way, I don't think the suggestion that I have is final or by any means the only.
Oh, stop the camera. I thought we had everything solved. I mean, stop the camera. Why are we going to waste our time talking about something that isn't totally solved?
It's just something that I thought about for a long time and that I'm sharing with many people, and I'm trying to look for fallacies.
Please.
And so, one of the problems that we have in the distribution of resources is the ownership, as you mentioned, or what they like to call now through legal jargon is the intellectual property.
Well, that's part of it,
right? So it's
also
intellectual property really doesn't mean anything. It's either copyright or it's patents or it's industrial secret or it's trademark. But intellectual property as a term has no legal significance.
Okay.
In any way, it doesn't mean anything. But the problem, I think, are copyrights and patents.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So open source, I think, is that is a cancer that we have in our society.
Okay.
It was useful, and there was a reason for it a number of years ago. And now we're spending most of our money and time and resources fighting one way or another patents and copyrights. Most of them don't make any sense. So open source is the cure, I think, to this cancer that is spreading worldwide. Okay. So imagine you do not need a centralized system of production that is commonly owned and that resembles some sort of socialist structure that people might be opposing, and you're going to have huge inertia against. You have to fight a huge inertia. Instead, just like cell phones, we didn't have to fight Windows operating system to replace it worldwide. We invented new technology, they introduced a new system, and now Windows is basically out of the market because Android and Apple are 98% of
the cell phone. I mean, the
in the same way, we don't have to fight the huge inertia of the existing institutions that have power consolidation for production and distribution. We can start a new parallel system with very little inertia to fight, which is if you make more and more knowledge open source and you change very few things, small pieces of legislations, for example, that are fairly uncontroversial. For example, we say in a piece of legislation that publicly funded research, if you use anything that came out of publicly funded research or publicly funded technology or anything like that, what you create as a derivative needs to be also public and open source. It's a simple piece of legislation to which very few would be against in principle, and so it wouldn't have that huge contrast and fight against. But at the same time, you would allow for the creation of huge abundance by enabling local communities and cities and even individual people to create whatever they need through open source tools that are not just technological and information technology, but also physical. Because now with the advance of 3D printing and automated system for farming, and yes, so we can, I think, through open source, open knowledge, and open research, enable the huge innovation and the resilience that is required for our species.
That's very
to move
interesting.
forward.
That's very interesting. All these things are developing, aren't they?
Because the thing is, you are not fighting a huge inertial power against you. You're not trying to change the whole system and replacing what the current structures are. You are building something beginning from small pockets of populations and showing how that is possible, and it's already happening. So it's not like we're trying something completely new. It's already happening throughout the spectrum. There are thousands of open source projects, open source ecology, open source architecture. There are open source projects on Kickstarter, on Indiegogo, being crowdfunding every day from various people. So we have the opportunity to really change the game, and that's why when I started Esplori, my online learning startup, my goal is to enable anyone. So I want to give the tools for teaching anything to anyone in any language for free. Right? So I want to give the tools available to anyone for free. And that would, I think, help facilitate and enable the transition from this society to an open source society, which will be the title of my next book.
All right, very good. That's very good. That's very
which
good.
will also be
we ought to
read.
keep track of this public access, because you can make this is public access where you can do that where it's done free. There's that, and that's the thing that's really important.
My new book also will be in Creative Commons, so also will be free to read on the website.
You're giving all this away free.
So people can support by buying the book, but if they don't want to buy it because they don't have the money, they can read it for free.
And what you can do is being very good. Make this thing like is to get in touch with this young man. You have the site. Thanks a lot for coming in. Your pleasure at the Seven. Federico Pistono, and he's an intellect of a high order. He's also Zeitgeist. You've been in touch with the Zeitgeist movement and so forth.
Absolutely.
So you're in touch with a lot of the good sources, and you're the hope of the future. You're kind of people. I thank you very much for all the good work, and I really thank you for coming in. We could go on talking, and we have, but look forward to this, and welcome to New York City.
Thank you very much.
May you come and find a nest here in New York City, because it would be New York's gain would be the world's loss, but do keep traveling and keep pushing the envelope. And I really thank you for that. How's the book doing? Is it robots? The robotization is really taking over the productive process, and it's been, Are you optimistic for the human prospect?
If enough people think about these issues and come up with creative solutions and either start or participate in open source projects or facilitate or
then
support,
there's hope.
I think there is hope,
All right, let's hope so that there's hope. That's good. Your pleasure. Again, Federico Pistono. This is the beginning of a beautiful friendship, I would hope, okay?
Absolutely.
Your pleasure. We're coming back again tomorrow, so do tune in. We'll be coming back again tomorrow. Have a good holiday season upcoming. And Federico, thanks a lot for such a very, 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 very well-led life that continues and keeps picking up steam. All the best to you.